globe earthers often ask, if the Earth is flat, then why can't people from anywhere in the world zoom with a telescope and see Mount Everest? To begin with, this question presupposes the errant assumption that we can see indefinitely far with the use of a telescope. This idea has been indoctrinated into people due to modern astronomers claiming that the stars and planets shown through their telescopes are millions and billions and trillions of miles away, making many people assume that a telescope pointed horizontally should also be able to see equally far, or at least as far as Mount Everest. In reality, however, as you can test for yourself, using a telescope or camera with just 100 or 200 times zoom capability, the stars and planets are not nearly that far away, and can be zoomed into incredible detail beyond what would be possible of something so absurdly distant. Furthermore, when looking horizontally across the Earth, there are a number of visibility and atmospheric limitations present that don't factor when looking upwards towards the stars, namely perspective and convergence, angular resolution and the vanishing point, as well as pollution, haze, humidity, fog, mist, and more. Most people asking about seeing Mount Everest through a telescope have never actually experimented with one themselves, or else would already know that visibility gets progressively more distorted the further you zoom, until nothing can be discernibly resolved. There are also, of course, hills, mountains, buildings, trees, and innumerable other objects in the way, obstructing any possible view to Mount Everest. If you stand on the beach, a plain or prairie, you will find the horizon extends about 3 to 6 miles around you, depending on the weather and your eyesight. The range of the human eye, our field of vision, is from 110 to 1 degree, and the smallest angle under which an object can still be seen is 1/60th of 1 degree, so that when an object is 3,000 times its own diameter away from an observer, it will cease to be visible. So for example, the furthest distance at which one can see a 1-inch diameter penny is 3,000 inches, or 250 feet. With the aid of the best telescopes, on the clearest days, we can resolve objects a few hundred times smaller and or further away, but anything on the scale of seeing Everest from anywhere on Earth is simply not possible.
The Earth is flat and stationary. The sun, moon, and stars are all very close. We could possibly be dealing with some kind of rear projection with the sun and the moon, but that's up to debate. The community is basically a bunch of free-thinking people who realize we've been indoctrinated from a young age with the whole spinning ball through TV, movies, just the culture. Just right. It is what we grew up with.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
We are now questioning that. You've got things like the P900, the Nikon camera that is shooting across the plane. It's bringing boats back over the horizon. That's actually one of the first things that just blew my mind. I was, a friend of mine said, people think the Earth is flat. I said, that's crazy. And I went to try and debunk it. So basically, anybody who believes in the spinning ball is just somebody who has not tried to debunk flat Earth. And I mean, legitimately give it the good,
the good YouTube watching,
the good scientific method, which is it observable? Does it match our observations? Does the official story match our observations?
Can I ask a question, though?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people with different theories, but does a theory have to be disproven for it to not be true?
Well, we just look. The whole community is basically we don't like the pseudoscience, which is a bunch of men got together and said, we live on a spinning ball.
Right.
We're spinning 1,000 at the equator. The Earth itself is moving at 67,000 miles an hour. It's part of this whole big system, traveling around the sun, all this movement, yet it doesn't match our observations. So that's all we're saying. And basically, we see too far on the Earth.
Right.
There's some videos that just came out using infrared from an airplane. The guy is flying in Iowa. He can see the Hudson Bay up in Canada using infrared, because infrared takes away the atmosphere.
Okay.
Flat earthers take the position that, and the reason a lot of us were able to transition so easily into flat earth is because we already knew that the moon landings and all that and space was all bogus. Okay.
Right.
So with all due respect, it's bogus. I'm not buying it. And you can watch just endless videos of motion capture. They're using
of Richard in space. Is that what you're getting ready to say?
Yeah.
Richard's just a small piece of the puzzle. There's plenty of astronauts that have screwed up.
Do you believe that Richard went
camera.
into space?
No.
The Earth is flat. There's a lot more to uncover. NASA haven't exactly been honest about everything. Explore the flat Earth perspective with an open mind. This is just for entertainment purposes.
Good afternoon. Aloha from Florida. So real quick, 2 different types of pictures. I have mentioned this before, but just a short, sweet video about it. Because people will ask us as flat earthers, well, why do you want us to trust your pictures and you won't trust our pictures? Here's why. We take our pictures for ourselves. And they are not just observations, they also have measurements. The pictures that globers want to use as evidence for curvature or evidence for the Earth being a globe are not taken by them, and they're not taken by anybody else either. They are CGI images much of the time, or they are from a high-altitude balloon or from a high-altitude aircraft pretending to be the ISS or pretending to be a satellite. They are not empirical evidence, but the real kicker is this. There's no measurements. They want to say, look, there's curvature. That's upside down, or backward. There we go. It's cool in the back, though. Flower of life pattern. Can you see it? Nice. Anyway, so that's the difference between a flat earther's picture and the pictures that globers try to use for proof of curvature. Their pictures are nothing more than observations and no measurements. Our pictures and videos are observable, measurable, and repeatable. We take them ourselves. For more on this, go to Taboo Conspiracy on YouTube. Ben is the content creator there. He has a Juris Doctorate and 2 master's degrees. He's highly educated, but he's also highly intelligent, and that's why he overcame his indoctrination and learned the Earth is flat and stationary, and now for years has been teaching people the truth of creation. You could also call it the geocentric cosmology, or the common term is flat Earth. Flat Earth is the truth, the globe is the lie. We have real pictures that you can repeat and take yourself. The globers have pictures that someone else took or claimed to have made. They'll even say a lot of times images, not picture, because it is a CGI image. But anyway, that's enough. That's the difference. Have a great day. God bless.
Stewie, what are the odds that the Titanic, the richest ship ever built, sinks on its first voyage, with 3 of the loudest opponents of the Federal Reserve on board?
Oh boy, here we go again. It was an iceberg, Peter, not a conspiracy.
Really? Then why did J.P. Morgan, the owner of the Titanic, cancel his trip at the last second?
Maybe he was scared of sailing?
Nah, he was too busy meeting with the Rothschilds in Europe.
Coincidence?
Same coincidence that 3 of the wealthiest anti-bank elites, John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, all died on the ship.
Wait, all 3 were against the Federal Reserve?
Loudly. Astor funded Nikola Tesla and spoke against centralized banking. Guggenheim had investments threatened by the banking cartel. Strauss opposed private control over the U.S. currency.
But how could someone guarantee they'd die?
That's the thing. The Titanic wasn't just any ship. It had less than half the lifeboats needed, no red distress flares, and crew members never trained for evacuation.
It was called unsinkable, right?
Exactly. So unsinkable that it broke in half from a single impact. And the rescue ship Carpathia just happened to be ready, with Morgan's friends on board.
You're saying it was a hit job?
I'm saying it was a reset, because 1 year later, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law. No opposition, no delay.
Dude, that's cold.
Colder than the North Atlantic. They didn't just kill passengers. They killed resistance and birthed a private banking empire that still runs the world today.
And nobody noticed?
They did. But guess what happened? Newspapers, owned by Morgan and friends, called it a tragedy, buried the questions, and turned it into a sub-story about love and loss.
Like the movie?
Exactly. The movie made you cry over a couple, so you'd never ask who sunk the ship. Follow for more hidden truths and comment. Stewie, what are the odds that the Titanic...